All right. Well, hi, hello, and welcome to our exciting webinar today. We are definitely in for a treat. We are talking about the future of forms, how Agentic AI assistants build secure Salesforce forms for you. This is a very exciting day. We've got a lot to get into. I cannot wait to get started. And today's webinar is sponsored by Salesforce and their partner FormAssembly, produced by SmartBrief. My name is Jess Steinbach. I'm with SmartBrief, a future B2B company, and I'm so happy that I get to be here with all of you today and be a part of this discussion as your moderator. Now, here's the thing. We know Dreamforce, recent, lots of things going on, lots of cool things happening in Dreamforce. So maybe you were participating, and you're still kind of digesting everything you saw. It's still kind of mulling through and you're sorting through that in your brain. Or maybe you missed it. Maybe you didn't get to attend. And here's the great news. Either way, you are going to get something out of this session today. We have a whole wonderful conversation ahead put together just for Salesforce professionals just like you. And we are going to cover the very latest in data collection innovation. You're going to see a live demonstration of FormAssembly's brand new Agentic AI Assistant. It is literally going to guide you through building your forms and workflows. This is an absolute game changer for speed and security. If you haven't gotten to see it yet, get excited, get pumped up, because that is going to be a highlight. We also have some incredible industry-leading, thought-leading experts here with us who are going to engage in an interactive panel discussion as we go through. And I do mean interactive. We want to hear from you. We want to get into all the ideas, the thoughts. Again, whether you were at Dreamforce or not, what is it that you are feeling is important, is top of mind for you? There's going to be an opportunity for us to get into a conversation. So make sure that you are ready. Get your coffee, get your feet up, or get comfortable. If you're standing, get in the ready stance, because we are about to dive in. And I want to take you on just a little bit of a tour of our console. And this is going to help you get interactive as we go through our day today. So let's wander through the console together. Oh, I love it. Andrew is excited. Amazing. Andrew, not only am I happy to see that you're excited, you are also perfectly demonstrating the use of the chat tab there. So over on the right-hand side, we have chat, docs, and Q&A. Let's start out in the chat tab because Andrew is demonstrating that for us so well. So in the chat, this is where you can say hi, you can say hello. Hey, if you know what, are you dressing up for Halloween tomorrow? Anyone dressing up? I want to know what you're wearing. I'm very excited about that. What's your favorite Halloween candy? I'm interested in that. Post that in the chat. But as we go through the conversation, keep in mind that the community can see that chat coming in, as can our speakers. So if you have an interesting idea, something that you've thought about, something that's worked well or hasn't worked well, that's what we want to see in that chat tab. Kit Kat and Twix. Yes, Twix is getting a lot of votes. Okay, yeah, I like it. A little bit of Reese's peanut butter cups, a classic, a classic. Well done. Shocking heads up, if anyone is celiac, as I am, can't have Twizzlers. Wheat, full of wheat. Who knew? Why? I gotta talk to the people at Twizzlers. Anyways, Skittles, yes, solid choice. Okay, this is what the chat tab is for all of us getting to know each other and sharing our thoughts and deep ideas about candy. Now, 2 tabs over, there's the Q&A tab. This is where you're going to be able to ask questions directly of our wonderful expert presenters. So when you have those insightful ideas and thoughts that you really want to roll around with one of our expert presenters, get it in the Q&A tab. That is very important. So chat, getting to know each other, connecting, talking about nerds, Butterfingers, Bit of Honey, Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, obviously very important. And then the Q&A tab, questions going directly to our expert presenters. I also have to call out the docs tab because we have some incredible resources and takeaways for you there. And it's going to be very important for you to be able to follow up on everything we're hearing about, spend some time in that docs tab. Okay, a few last things, and then we're going to get things rolling here. I got totally sidetracked by candy, guys, and now we're just off the rails here. All right, so back to our console here. I do want to call out that we have closed captioning. That is available for you on the console. You can turn that on if you'd like. Got a bunch of different languages. So if that would enhance your webinar viewing experience, make sure you've got that on. Last but not least, 2 more important points. 1, if you're having any, I was going to say gremlins, but let's make it a little more Halloween-y. If you are having ghosts and ghouls in your system today, and they are causing problems for you. First step, browser refresh. Give that a try. Browser refresh is going to cure almost anything. If that is not working, you can also try light mode. You can enable that on your webinar console. And last but not least, post in the chat window for the wonderful Riley. She's here with us all the way through. Riley can help you out if you have any issues. So browser refresh, light mode, post to Riley. Riley's your bat signal if things are not working. Okay, then last thing, we do have a $250 Amazon gift card. We're going to give that away at the end. So that's not now. You have to be here all the way through the webinar. You have to be live and present all the way through the webinar. And you do need to meet the Smart Brief Prize terms and conditions. If you are not sure what those are, they are linked in the docs tab. I did see a question there about closed captioning. You should see the little CC button down in the bottom, I think it's bottom right of your screen, that you can turn on that closed captioning. All right, that's a lot of stuff very quickly. I said that very quickly, and now it's time for me to breathe. And by that, I mean, I'm going to bring out some help. I'm going to bring out some help as we go through our introductions and as we go through this agenda. I'm going to bring out the one and only, a familiar face here on the webinar, and that is from FormAssembly. Josh, I'm so happy to have you here with us today.
Hi, Jess. Hi, gang in the audience. Thank you all for being here. And Jess, thanks so much for hosting us again. We love working with your team, and we're super excited with the content that we have prepared today. Dreamforce this year was a blur for myself as a Midwesterner getting sucked out to San Francisco, and then sitting through a couple days of what felt like every session and every booth talking about AI. It took me a couple of weeks just to get my head straight. I think if you had a chance to join us at Dreamforce this year, you're probably in the same boat. Our goal with our webinar today is to talk out some of the trends and ideas that we saw at Dreamforce. And as you mentioned, here at FormAssembly, we recently updated our platform with an Agentic AI Assistant that we think really delivers on the promise of AI, doing work for you, limiting that manual work. And I can't wait to show that to you a little bit later in today's presentation. But first, we do have a panel of experts joining us. They're going to talk about what they saw at Dreamforce, their thoughts about Agentic AI and the future of work. It's Dreamforce's theme this year. And then we're going to talk about Agentforce applications. Agentforce has been out in the wild for years. I think this year's Dreamforce really brought home the practical applications of agents. It felt like every foot of the trade show floor was showcasing how one brand or another was using Agentforce to better serve their customers. We have a couple of experts on the call today to talk about how they're bringing Agentforce applications to life. I know many of you in the audience are probably looking for inspiration, looking for some ideas. We'll get those to you as well. And then stick around for the demo of our new Atlas platform. I can't wait to show that to you. It's got some really exciting features that I'm going to put in front of you.
This is going to be so great. We have such a big day. Also, I didn't know that Reese's Peanut Butter Cups came in dark chocolate, so I have clearly missed that, and the audience has just informed me of that.
The candy market is constantly innovating, just like technology. So really, I see them in very similar areas, and I'm glad our audience is familiar with both.
Thank you for bringing us back into the topic at hand. Much like candy, AI is also innovating constantly. Here we go. Let's get our wonderful speakers on out here, and we'll give a quick little hi hello to everybody that's here with us today. So we're going to bring out Aparna and Sarah and Peter and Eric. Hey, okay, I was going to ask you guys to say hi. Instead of doing that, Sarah, what's your favorite Halloween candy?
Oh, gotta go Hershey's milk chocolate all the way.
Wow, classic. Okay, Eric, favorite Halloween candy?
I think I'm going to go with Twix.
Amazing. All right, Aparna?
Is this controversial to say candy corn? Because I mean,
yes,
I know it is controversial to say
candy corn is good.
I love candy corn.
I will die on this. Yes, I'll +1 candy corn. We'll also say a little more Christmassy for me, but crackle. Very underrated.
Okay. I don't know what that is, Peter.
I'll show you. Don't worry.
Okay, great. Send me a link later. Okay, no, you've got some shout outs from the audience here, Aparna. They are in with you. They are digging it. Yes, candy corn. I love it. Okay, amazing. This is fantastic. I'm so excited to talk with all of you later. We are going to, I think for now, kind of jump into our first panel. Josh, any last thoughts for us?
Oh, no, I'm looking forward to the discussion today. If you're a part of the Salesforce community, if you've been in the Salesforce subreddit, Dreamforce continues to be not necessarily controversial, but worthy of discussion. Thank you all for bringing your thoughts to today's discussion.
Much like candy corn, Controversial.
Yeah.
All right, let's get Sarah and Josh. We're going to say goodbye to you guys temporarily. Don't leave us though, because we're going to bring you back. Peter, Aparna, Eric, you guys feeling ready to jump in?
Let's
Sure.
do
This
this.
is a great topic
get
and great
started.
panelists. I'm looking forward to it, Jess.
All the best things. Great topics, great panelists. We got a lot to do here. Okay, let's go back to Dreamforce. Let's get in the way back when machine and think about Dreamforce. So the major theme was agentic AI, and of course, really looking at what that means for the future of work. And so what I'm curious about, I'm going to ask you, and Peter, I think I'll get you to kick us off on this one. Can you give us an idea of the glimpses of the future? What are the Oracle saying that you got at that show? Are we maybe already in that sort of future that we've been talking about, the future of work we've been dreaming about for a while?
Yeah, I think it's hard to say, and it's going to be probably a little bit different industry to industry. I think my main takeaway, especially when thinking about the agentic enterprise, right? It's highlighted in the main keynote. We got some examples, lots of sessions on it. Pretty much all of our clients, all the follow-up questions were, how do we get there, right? How do we go from A to B? And I think the main takeaway is you could be there, maybe is the best way to say it, where I think there are a number of really important prerequisites, mostly around data structure, data capture, how that's getting into your system, how you're keeping it clean, because these agents are really going to make your human capital much more effective. I think a big takeaway that I had was we're not here to replace people. We want to make them better at their job, more effective at their job. And that really starts with what data is the agent going to be looking at? Does it have a pathway to know how to assist? And I think from our lens, which is more higher education, is there's a massive amount of data that's out there that we can take for advising, for example. We can really supercharge advisors with an agent, provided that the data is in the right spot.
Yes, that is always a big thing. You got to have it. You got to know where it is. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that, Peter. I think maybe Aparna, can I ask you to chime in on that as well?
Yeah, I was thinking through what Peter said, but before going to that, my mind was wandering when you said it was kind of is the future here. I don't know how many of the audience members went to Dreamforce 2 weeks ago, but maybe I'll pick on Peter because I know he was there, and Eric, you probably were there as well. But did anybody see that dog they were walking around? Like there was like a robot dog without a head, and there was like this handler behind him. It was kind of creepy. But
Yep.
but they were, I think that they were trying to push the message that the future is here, and now we're all going to have robot dogs. No, just kidding.
Headless robot dogs? They couldn't put a cute
was
little
it
head
was
on
kind of headless, right? I don't know if you guys remember this. I was looking
Very
for
like
a picture of it
camera
online.
face, kind of.
Yeah.
Kind of, right? It
Mhm.
was doing all these cool little tricks and all, but it wasn't endearing because it didn't have a head. But the point was, I feel like the message was on point, which is this is AI. This is what this is, but it's still being driven very much by the human side of things. So from a future standpoint, yes, I feel like Dreamforce was definitely giving us a glimpse into the future is definitely coming. It's not going to stop. And it's where AI is no longer just a thing that we go to, a tool that we use, but what they're trying to make it do is incorporate that into the flow of work. So the whole agentic enterprise concept, right? Like it's the agent's world. We're just going to live in it, but they're trying to make it to where it's still very much humanistic in the way they do that. And that I think was the key visual that stood out to me. There was making sure that the agents were working in the tools that people use. Like, I don't know how many of you guys in the audience are Slack shops, for example. We do everything by Slack, rarely read my email. I would love for where agents are a part of the Slack conversation that are enriching the data that I'm collecting and the conversations that I'm having instead of having to go somewhere and say, Slack agent, help me with this, and then come back to my conversation. That's a simple example of that. And in that part, in that way, I think the future is kind of already here.
All right, Eric, you're our grand finale on this one. What do you think?
Yeah,
And feel free to chime in on headless dogs as well.
Yeah, Robin's comment about the robot dog making her uncomfortable. I would tend to agree with that one. I think what I missed was the tail wagging and the happiness of the dog. Right? What dogs normally do. They respond to you and they look happy that you're there. Dreamforce Dreamforce was interesting for me again this year, like every year, and I think both Peter and Aparna really touched on a couple of things that became a little bit more clear, perhaps. And the question of, are we already in the future? My gut tells me yes and no. We're there to some degree because of some of the things that we just saw, some of the things that we know the agentic enterprise is going to be able to do. But we need to be cautious about how we get there. As Peter kind of implied, we have to make sure that our data is in a good place before we get there. That's a big deal. You start off with bad data, you're going to definitely get bad results, and you don't want to go down that path for sure. And then so there's a lot that could definitely go wrong, but when you have everything in the right place and you know what you're doing and your data is in a good spot and you're building agents to do the things that agents really need to do and keeping humans in the loop, I think everything's going to work really well together.
Well, I like that. Now, I have to acknowledge something before we move on to our next question. Josh, please don't fire me as your moderator. I realized that I didn't actually introduce any of you. I just got so excited about Candy that I invited you all out on stage and did not introduce you. So we're going to take a step back very quickly, and then I will get on to the next question. And in post, we'll fix this so that no one can see that I did that, right? That's the magic of editing.
Keep it all in. Keep it all in.
Great. We're going to keep going. Okay. So very quickly, our wonderful experts here on camera with us already. Aparna Zhu, Chief Product Officer at FormAssembly, Eric Dreschfield, Client Relationship Advisor at Thanawala Digital, and of course, Peter Bernardi, CEO at Elevate Actual. Peter, Aparna, I know we've gotten to speak before. Eric, I'm so excited to have you here for your first webinar with us. And we've got a whole bunch of content, obviously, already kind of kicking off and getting started. So thank you for being here, for letting me kind of guide you through this somewhat chaotic and candy-filled conversation. Okay, now we're back on track. Are you guys ready for question number 2?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. I want to keep going with obviously, as we're kind of going through our day, I want to dig in through the layers of agentic AI. And we've started with kind of looking ahead, is the future now? So here's what I'm curious about. You guys eat, sleep, and breathe this all day. You're in the thick, in the know. Was there anything that you heard at Dreamforce? And I'm going to send this over. Let's see. Let's start with Aparna on this one. You're going to be in the hot seat first. Aparna, sure. Anything that you heard that was a surprise that you didn't see coming?
Yeah, well, first of all, Jess, we're not going to fire you as a moderator. You're awesome. So
thank you so much. I appreciate that.
I was thinking about it. So forget the headless dogs and all the other cool stuff. Dreamforce was awesome. It was great. They always put on a great show. They always give us a glimpse into the future. Salesforce does a great job of showing us exactly where their roadmap is taking us, what the vision is going to look like. So I really did appreciate going there this time, especially around the whole agentic rise into the enterprise world. But the part that did surprise me a little bit was how ambitious and bold, but maybe I shouldn't be surprised about that with Salesforce, but how ambitious and bold that timeline was, because we just came out of the phase where AI is augmenting work. It's an augmenter of our work and how we do work, right? And now it's the agents world, we're living in it, and the agentic enterprise, and that shift happened super quick. I think this could be exciting to someone like me, a technologist, but it could also be a little scary for someone like me and manages a team and in the type of work that I do, because it's like, okay, well, how do our roles change? And is it this quick that this is happening for us to be able to figure out going from, okay, is it augmenting my work to now, okay, how do I work with the agentic enterprise, right? And I feel like that is definitely something that was a little surprising. It was very ambitious. It didn't feel as incremental as I would like. I mean, I'm a product person. I take things in stages. They went like 0 to 60 pretty quickly. However, I also feel that it pushes us in the right direction, because an agent is only as smart as what's behind it. I think I heard Eric and even Peter mention that in terms of the data and all of the other stuff. So maybe our roles really shift into the governance, the compliance, the security, all of that feeds this agentic machine to do the work that we need it to do. And we take more of a factor in those areas to I guess, live the same roadmap that Salesforce is putting out there, where we're moving directly to the agentic enterprise. So that was a little surprising, but at the same time, I feel it could be warranted.
Okay, I like it. Eric, I'm curious what you think about that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've been to many, many Dreamforces, I think 13 or 14 now, and have seen a lot and have been surprised many times. But I think the one thing that really got me this time was the term, perhaps digital human, being used quite often. I never really thought about it that way before, and it's just an interesting little twist, I think, on what an agent is, and trying to put that human factor back into it by calling them the digital humans. Um, Going back to our earlier conversation, I wonder if a digital human would prefer nerds over Twix bars or something, just sort of throw something rather chaotic into the mix here.
So they like
But
candy corn. That's
right, or
the
candy
real
corn,
sign of
yes.
humanity.
Yeah. So, Dreamforce is always interesting. I really enjoy attending. But, I think a few years ago, I stopped going so much for the content and started going for the people. There's so many people I know in the ecosystem that I only see at Dreamforce. So I go to Dreamforce for the personal connection. So discovering kind of that personal connection around the agentic enterprise with the digital human terminology, that I think was the thing that really surprised me the most.
I like that. Yeah, Peter, didn't you and Sarah meet at Dreamforce and now you're on a panel together?
Exactly. And of course, got to shout out my favorite moment of Dreamforce always, Eric's Bacon Breakfast. For those that are in the know, you'll know. For those that have not yet attended, you will attend in the future. But 100% that. I think, yeah, looking at kind of Aparna's point about them saying we're here, right? The roadmap is now was I wouldn't say I'm surprised because it's right Salesforce, so we're always here. We've always arrived. It's always the next thing. I think from as an implementer on the SI side of the house, it is still very much those human connections that Eric mentioned. There are some people we only see there. There are certain conversations where the serendipity of, oh, we're at the same session. Oh, you work at this other school related to one of our clients. Let's talk about how you're doing this. Like those chance encounters only happen at Dreamforce. So I think there's a lot of value in attending for that. And to Aparna's point, Salesforce is great about showing where they're going. I think in the main keynote, 100%, right? We got these 5 kind of little vignette stories about how different industries are embracing the agentic enterprise. In our industry, we had the higher education roadmap, which was fascinating to see, the pace of innovation of Salesforce pushing towards student information system. That means a whole lot to a lot of people. That's a very loaded term. And they said, yeah, we're building it. Here are the next 3 releases. Like that's what's coming forward. And so I think, yeah, the speed of everything was a little surprising. I think it was ultimately kind of reassuring that, yeah, we're building this agentic enterprise. It is going to augment the work. It's not going to replace you guys. It's going to be these digital humans, right? Somewhere between doing the work and governing the work and structuring the work. And there is going to be this kind of hybridized method about which to do work. And we're here a little bit, right? We all have, ChatGPT to reformat our emails, right? Make this sound a little bit nicer, a little bit angrier. And from that angle, we can all use it day to day, but using it exclusively, I don't know if we're ever going to get there, at least in the way that we imagine. It might be some sort of hybrid method where we're still not losing that human touch.
I'm loving the idea that somebody might put their email in and be like, please make this 10% angrier. Like, I need
professionally stern is what we go with.
That's correct. Professionally stern is the correct. Okay, Melissa is asking. Melissa asked ChatGPT for their candy preference, and ChatGPT says I'd probably go with Smarties because they're smart. I love it. Okay, amazing. This is my favorite audience question that we've ever had. I'm really loving this. Okay, I want to actually, so we've kind of started to shift more towards Salesforce, and I want to talk about Salesforce a little bit. So I'm wondering, and Eric, I think you might be a good voice to start with here. If you can give us an idea of what you're seeing as the most significant trends in the Salesforce ecosystem right now, as you know, Peter, you just alluded to this, always changing, always innovating, lots happening. Eric, what do you see as the most significant of those innovations? And maybe I'm curious, pulling this back to Dreamforce, are there any technologies or practices, workflows, ideas that you saw that Salesforce was advocating for, promoting, talking about a lot at Dreamforce?
Besides Agentforce?
Yeah. Fair. Okay, yes, check.
Well, okay, so there's point number one, right? They certainly talked about Agentforce and the agentic enterprise quite a bit. I think personally, we probably all expected that, saw that coming a little bit. But I think some of the things that I saw or heard through some other conversations that maybe did not come quite up to the forefront as much were some of the side effects of what that means. The community may have felt a little bit of repercussions, perhaps, about the trend moving towards digital humans and not quite as much physical humans, if that's the right way to word it. But I think in the same regard, coming together at Dreamforce helped solidify the community itself and help make everybody feel more in the community, perhaps. You know, it's interesting that it almost seems like there's cycles through the community side of Salesforce where there's a ton of activity going on and there's a lot of people way involved, and then sometimes it ebbs and flows. I haven't put enough thought into that to see if it's related to releases at Dreamforce or technology upgrades or whatever, but it would be interesting to see if there's some connection there.
People get more or less friendly depending on the.
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would 100% agree where I think we recaptured a little bit of that Dreamforce energy this year that maybe was missing from the last couple, where we had a remote Dreamforce, and then that really curtailed participation, right? Understandably. And we slowly got back to almost, I mean, it did feel very reminiscent of that 2017, 2018 timeframe where Lightning was just coming out. Everything was super new. And I think this moving to a more agentic platform, I would say is probably the biggest trend, right? We're going to rebrand everything as Agentforce now. Got it. It's fine, right? What does that really mean? I think is probably a bigger question for a lot of people, where we have universities, colleges asking us, you know, should we just be doing all of our recruiting with Agentforce? And the answer is like, eventually, probably, right? So I think that's the trend where if we look at our allocation of human capital, not our digital human capital, but our actual human capital, is how are we best leveraging that within our organization? How can our technology support that? And so I think we're no longer looking at Salesforce as kind of this CRM platform, but really the one system of truth that does become that kind of agentic operating system of what are we arming our recruiters, our advisors, our staff with that are going to make their lives easier so they can think critically about their role and how to improve what they're doing instead of just doing what they're doing.
You know, Peter, I'd really like to understand more with the higher ed space too, because there's just so much data, and there's also a high need for that data to be clean and secure and compliant, right? When it comes to this, so it's going into my kind of what I was thinking when Jess was asking this question about like what Salesforce is pushing out there. Yeah, of course, it's Agentforce 360, all of that stuff. But what was so exciting to see is they talked about all the cool clickbait type level stuff, but they also backed it up with like the data piece of it, because they did talk about the data 360 and the new, I believe it was a new architecture. There's like, I happened to go to this one session, you know, because I was working the booth most of the time. So it was hard for me to go and see everything, but there was this one session and I'm glad I went, but it was about the architecture that they were putting out there to be able to support that level of what they're expecting Agentforce to do. And it was like something where they had the orchestration layers ready. They emphasized the governance of it. They emphasized how they were going to do controls in place to make sure that the data was clean enough and working towards this, you know, supporting the agentic enterprise. So that told me that they were also looking to auditing capabilities. They were looking to how the human piece is going to be the very front line of that, to be able to support that data and the guardrails that are going into place. And it wasn't just anymore about, let's just throw all the stuff at AI and see what comes out. It's more about, how do we make sure we can get this agentic enterprise happening with the right set of controls and the right set of data in a very safe environment, and do it quickly. So with higher ed, I'm so curious to see like how they are going to adopt this whole basically what they're talking about here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest thing, real quick, Justin, we can jump on is I mean, student data is highly regulated, right? In the US, we have FERPA. You're always going to have some sort of PII, HIPAA data, perhaps, if you have a medical school. And I think right now they're taking a real hard look. Again, getting into their trend is, what data silos exist? How can we break those down? What platforms are we going to lean into and really support, both financially and with human time, which ultimately is still a financial commitment? And you've got, in most instances, a legacy student information system, most cases on-prem still, not even cloud-based. So integrating to that poses its whole own challenges. You've got this now Salesforce layer that's innovating at rapid pace that you're going to use for your recruiting, your student success, your advancement, alumni cultivation. Ultimately, everything needs to get back to that kind of legacy system. So what more can we move within that governance framework into Salesforce as a system of execution and a system of record, keeping the SIS up to date until we can move that functionality over into Salesforce and really buy into just one platform. But yeah, I think the biggest thing is, yes, how many disparate systems do we have? How are we integrating those with Data 360, putting MuleSoft on top of it? Yeah, that is like the constant headache.
Got it. Yep, makes sense. Thanks, Peter.
Totally.
Well, and I love this. I feel like Matt, we could probably do whole webinars with each one of you going through within your industry and within your organizations, how you've been able to implement some of this, where you're going with some of this. But what I'm going to actually ask you to do is, instead of doing a whole webinar on it, we're going to do a nutshell. We're going to do a lightning round version of that, because I'd like to hear a little bit about what you're seeing or what you're hoping to be able to put in place in your organizations. So Peter, since we're kind of kicking that off with you, can you give us a little snapshot and what's on the roadmap?
Yeah, I would say I'll kind of answer it twofold. One is internally, like what are we doing at Elevate Actual, and then externally with client projects. Internally, I'd say from our documentation has been turbocharged with either ChatGPT, Scribe is truly one of the biggest pieces of technology, Scribe and Loom, shout out to them. Not a paid sponsor, just love it. Truly the technology I've used recently that I went, wow, this is actually really cool. So like doing screen recordings, walkthroughs, demos, providing really robust kind of living documentation has been awesome to do internally. And then on the client side, we just wrapped up a beta of the advising agent. I think that's going to be next level for advisors. Student walks in, you haven't talked to them in 3 months. Hey, Agentforce, give me a quick summary of what the student's struggling with. Taps into all of their records, has live grades from an LMS coming in. Understanding, oh, they just failed a quiz in science. They need support there. Maybe set up a peer mentoring meeting. That'd be a good next step. Now those advisors can leverage and deliver way better value than, oh, Jess, you walked in. What's going on? They already know what's going on because their data is all there and centralized. So on that, externally, I think it's going to be a lot more of, honestly, Agentforce, of getting that ingrained into their work streams.
Love that. All right, thank you for that, Peter. Aparna, what's ahead on your roadmap you're excited about?
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I'll take a page from Peter and go internal, external, because this does affect us as a company, but it also affects the product that we put out there. Internally, using AI, there's really two themes, and it applies to externally, internally. It's natural language and low code. And this is all about ease of use, making sure we can adopt things super quick, and then a customer experience standpoint. So internally, we have so many sources of data, and we're trying to make decisions on the fly with roadmaps to be able to put out the best possible product out there without having to go through a major cohort study or a 6-month, alpha beta program. So the way for us to do that and conduct business in different parts of the organization is to consolidate everything, have all the sources kind of feed in where you can just ask it, hey, help me with this, and get a good context of what's going on. I mean, that's not news or kind of innovative, but it is a huge part. If we get right, it was just going to really help us accelerate the product development process and also the way we do business and support our customers, which is key. And then on the roadmap side, everything stems with FormAssembly from the customers. One of the reasons why I came to this company and I've stayed for as long as I've done is because we're incredibly customer centric. And that means we're listening actively to the problems. We don't build technology first. We build what is the actual customer issue, and then we add the technology piece to it. And it's so easy with AI to get lost in the shiny new thing and say, how do we take this and make this apply? We're trying to hold off on that, like just throwing things out there. We don't want to do that. So one of the things we're recently doing is, of course, we've come out with our new platform Atlas, which launched at Dreamforce 2 weeks ago, and that does have an agentic experience built in. And the whole purpose of it is not to replace humans. It's incredibly humanistic, but it's to get people from zero, not knowing how to do a data collection process, all the way to kind of a wow moment where they see the data coming in and going somewhere in the fastest, most efficient time possible. And we're noticing dramatic drop downs in the time it takes people to onboard onto our platform with this launch. And something that I'm going to give you guys kind of a sneak preview of what's in our lab that we're doing with, since we're talking about Agentforce all the time, is we're actually looking at an Agentforce connector. So with data collection, putting an Agentforce connector into our workflow, meaning we can send a form to Agentforce and it can basically do a conversational form or a voice-based form or anything it wants to do instead of the traditional way that most of our customers use our product. So that's something we're looking to put into the roadmap based on what we're hearing from Dreamforce and what we're seeing from the whole technological arc on AI.
Well, apparently you just got the chat just lit up with the fan, including Peter, who is also very excited. Yeah. But I love that. You got a lot of shout outs from the audience here on that one, apparently. So lots of excitement there. Eric, I'd love to hear from you as well.
Yeah, this is a really interesting part of the conversation for me. Going way back in my early career, I worked for higher ed for 10 years in a couple different institutions. And everything we did back then was spreadsheets, literally. I mean, there was a system of some sort, but it was like microfilm updated once a week, and it was horrible. Nothing was real time. It was deadly slow. So I'm just, my mind is kind of grappling with all this stuff and trying to figure out what would life have been like back then had we had today's technology, and where would we have gone from there. It's super fascinating, and just thinking about all the advancements and the benefits to the students and as well as to the universities is pretty amazing. From my perspective, where I sit right now, most of the work I do professionally is as a marketer. And so from where I'm thinking about that and utilizing the tools that are out there now and the agentic enterprise, I think where things are going for me is it's going to enable me to come up with the creative things that I need to do as a marketer in a slightly different way. It'll help me to figure out what the core message really needs to be and perhaps how to present it, but it's still going to leave enough leeway for me to put the dresh in it and keep it kind of personalized.
Well, yeah, that personalization is key. I love, Eric, I love that you're ideating how you can do what you already do with more creativity, not just better or more. A lot of times we think in volume, and what you're describing is in the very human element of creativity. Right.
Yeah. And I don't know, I'm not sure why I felt that way, but it just seemed like where I was going and what's going to happen. So time will tell, right?
Time will tell. Yes, very true. And Andy's calling out that Eric, Andy says they can tell that you've put in major time into Excel because the shortcuts are just etched into your brain. I'm sure you're shortcutting in your sleep.
100% truth. Andy knows me really well.
Here's the thing. This panel has been so interesting, and we have a whole other little panel we got to get to. So I'm going to start to wrap things up, but what I'm going to close out on is a very quick lightning round. I'm going to get you guys to answer in like 1 sentence to 2 sentences. This is a challenge, I know, because there's a lot we could say about this. And then we're going to take a quick question from the audience. So I want to end on the note of data collection. And what I'm asking you guys for is in very quick, high level, what are the trends that you are seeing, trend that you're seeing for Salesforce data and data collection in general? Aparna, kick us off, lightning round.
Okay, lightning round, trust. Data collection, it has to be trust. We have to trust being able to give the data somewhere and that they're taking care of it and it's not going to be leaked Nothing's going to happen with it. It's protected. So anything we can do around trust in data collection is key.
Love it. All right. Amazing. Lightning round success. Eric?
Well, she stole my thunder.
Oh.
But that's okay. You know, I'm going to take a slightly different angle to the trust piece and bring it back to the human, and stress the importance of the personalized relationships we have with colleagues, clients, customers, prospects, because everybody knows people do business with those they trust.
I love that. Yeah, and Veronica's calling out, especially in healthcare customers. Yeah, which actually, Peter, I'm sure that's true in higher ed too.
Yeah, I would say alongside, obviously we have trusted data. I'm going to go with ease. It has to be natural, easy, accessible. That's always a huge topic in higher ed. Everything we build has to be accessible. And to Aparna's point about what's coming is, could we move an entire application for admission to a chat? Does it need to even be a form, right?
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay.
So very much looking forward to FormAssembly's natural language data collection.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah,
Anyone
thanks,
who
Peter.
wants
Thanks for putting us
Yeah,
on
of
the
course.
clock.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd also like it now if we could. That'd be great. Yeah.
I would have liked it 20 years ago when I was applying for university. That would have been great.
Right.
Okay, so I'm going to throw an audience question at all of you, and then we're going to wrap up this panel and move to our next one because we've got so much to do today. Audience question here that came in was asking if any of the panelists could give recommendations for companies that are struggling with getting their data ready for Data Cloud or Agentforce. So maybe what I'll do here is I'm going to ask for another lightning round. If we can kind of do maybe one recommendation, one action step from any or all of you. Whoever's feeling excited, jump in.
Well, I think I'll just kick it off really quickly. Make sure you don't have any duplicates. And that's a pretty generic statement. And it opens the door to all sorts of possibilities. You know, Jonathan, is it the same person? You mean you got to have enough data in your system to be able to realize that it's the same person or it's not.
Love it. No duplicates. Peter or Aparna?
Yeah, I can go. Mine is going to be more on the human aspect. Definitely, when you are trying to adopt AI into your organization, it's easy to get lost in what it can do. But think about your org structure. On the product side, we look at product org fit. So it's always good to start looking at your org and how it's going to shape up with this new advancement if it does work out, so you're not blindsided by it afterwards.
Amazing. Peter?
I would say you really got to know your architecture. If you're on in one of the Salesforce industry solutions, Education Cloud, Nonprofit Cloud, et cetera, you got to really be using the standard architecture as much as possible. And descriptions on fields, they're annoying. I don't do them. I've been yelled at because I don't. If you want Agentforce to work in your org, full stop period, every field must have a description. Because again, the robot can't imply what this field is. It doesn't have that historical knowledge. So data architecture, even like that metadata piece, is really kind of that step zero to everything.
Okay, you guys did a great job with that. I know I kind of rushed you at the end. I appreciate the hits and highlights answers there. Peter, I'm going to keep you around and we're going to bring Sarah out. Aparna and Eric, I want to thank both of you for joining us here today. Thank you for some really insightful answers.
Thank you.
Pleasure being here. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, so we're saying goodbye to two, but we're bringing out another rock star. Sarah, thank you so much for joining. I am going to follow my own agenda and introduce you formally. We've got Sarah Thanawala here with us. Sarah, you're actually the head lady. You're the head human here. You're the head of business development and client relations. So you're doing all the big important things.
You know, I that's what I tell my parents, and I'm pretty sure they sort of look at me and roll their eyes and go, yeah, right.
Yeah, okay. Please go tell your parents that Jess said you're the head important human. All right, we're gonna keep rolling with this. Peter, thank you for sticking around to chat with us a little bit further, and we're gonna try to dig in a little bit more to some of the real world applications. We've been thinking about Dreamforce, and we've been thinking on kind of this high level, and I want to dig into where we're seeing this and where our audience might be seeing this in their day-to-day lives. So let's kind of kick things out and or off, whatever we want to do in a direction. And I'm curious. I'm going to ask each of you, and Sarah, since you're new, I'm going to start things with you. So, Sarah, where are you seeing clients build agents into their organizations?
So Right now, I kind of work in a slightly different field. So I know, Peter, you're in higher education. We're in big data management at the enterprise level. So we're specifically in the telecom vertical. We've done work in other verticals, but right now our bread and butter is in the telecom vertical. And we're seeing a huge desire to go from, the paper trails that everyone is using and the small little silos that you're seeing from business unit to one centralized automation. Specifically in the telecommunications company we're working with right now, believe it or not, they have both Azure as well as Heroku and Snowflake and Salesforce, and there's 10 billion different things that they're using, and trying to put it all together, there's a lot of misinformation, but there's also a lot of information stored in people's heads. So I think going back to what Aparna said, efficiency and consistency are the main use for why we're seeing Agentforce really being pushed into these bigger organizations.
Love it. Peter, do you want to chime in on that one as well?
Yeah, and very similar to, right, these kind of a number of disparate systems that Sarah touched on is you've got Salesforce for recruiting, you've got Canvas as an LMS, you've got Banner as an SIS. Where does the data live? What's the source of truth? Who knows, right? Things are so siloed. Different departments within a higher ed might not even know that another group is using Salesforce. Then they go and purchase their own and procure. Now you've got two Salesforce orgs, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but there's just no communication, knowledge, cross-function, anything there, which then muddies the water for your agents even further. So if you are going kind of one org, is this the point of truth for your data? Can it be trusted, as Aparna mentioned earlier? Do we actually know that this is the system of record? Or are we having manual changes come in from other places? So again, it gets to that like kind of readiness in a piece of it where you can layer in a recruiting agent, an advising agent, donor cultivation agent, put those on your landing pages, have it feed data. It's got all these natural language prompts. But at the end of the day, if you can't trust that this is the accurate, true data that our organization is working with, to Sarah's point, you've got all these different clouds, it's all going to fall down.
And Peter, I would also say that a lot of that is intentional sometimes of having different orgs, because if you have different business units, you don't want them all working in the same application. Of course, we know that sometimes Salesforce can get a little muddied in the waters there,
Right.
especially if you're at scale. So a lot of times it's how do you take that data from multiple different orgs, if that is your intention, and how do you communicate it across the channels in an effective way, and using AI to do that to make sure, again, that you have the fields that are required, and that each of the systems can talk to one another seamlessly without downtime, and making sure that if you're in one part of the country, you're seeing the other part of the country's information that they're putting in real time too, not with a latency.
No, 100%.
Sarah, what's really interesting about what you're sort of describing there is I think in some ways you're getting to the why for what a client would be looking for when they're making these changes. So I'm wondering if I can ask you to kind of outline that for us a little bit. What do you think are the biggest reasons or sort of benefits? What's the ROI that people are looking for? And then here's the kicker I'm going to ask you to add to that is, so we know what they're looking for, what have they actually been able to achieve?
Absolutely. So I think I'll answer the second part of that question first before I answer the first part. So I think that there's been a lot of push with AI, which has been fantastic, but we're not quite seeing the overall marketing strategy and the sales strategy that a lot of these companies have, such as Salesforce and OpenAI, that they've been pushing that AI has the full potential to do. And that's not anybody's responsibility other than the fact that we're not ready for it yet. There's only a certain amount of hours in a day that you can code. There's only a certain amount of time that you can put into a particular project while still keeping business functioning as normal, because you do have a vast majority, going into the social and economic portion of this, you have a vast majority of society that is in the workforce that are older, and they're not necessarily as keen to all the little intricacies that AI has. For example, my dad, he took forever to get onto ChatGPT, and I love him to death, but the first day that he got onto ChatGPT, after I had told him like 10 billion times, you need to get onto ChatGPT just to do simple things, he went, this ChatGPT thing is pretty cool. And now he uses it for everything.
And you're like,
so,
you don't say, Dad.
right? And there's that moderation, and there's a lot of education that has to happen right now on how do you use AI effectively. Otherwise, we're going to end up in a Facebook situation. By the way, great book to read is Careless People by Sarah Wynne Williams. And she talks about, reverse mentoring.
But Ori got it. Okay.
Yeah, but she talks a lot about, making sure that you watch out for these edge cases, specifically in technology has the effect on economic, social, and government. And so I think a lot of times companies aren't necessarily able to push forward with their AI as much as they want to because they're still having to factor in all of these other safeguards that they have to take into account. And then the first part of your question, can you repeat it to me real quick?
Yes, I can, because it's been a hot minute. So we talked about the benefits that they are actually achieving. Is there any difference between what the ROI that people are looking for? What brings them to, is it just buzzword, or why are they coming?
No, I don't think it's buzzword. I know that that's a controversial opinion, but I do think that if you boil AI down, it's just statistics at scale. So that's where I think a lot of the mathematicians and physicists, they look at you and they go, yes, absolutely, AI will help you solve all these issues where you really need to have a supercomputer. I mean, think of Alan Turing. The only way that we were able to crack the Enigma is because of a computer, because it could work nonstop. And that's how progress is going to be made. But I also think we're in a very delicate time right now where the cost of AI, and Peter, I don't know if you want to chime in on this, but the cost of AI is significantly outweighing the benefit of it right now, especially I think for businesses that maybe don't have as much budget to spend.
Yeah, totally. And I think we love Moyas, right? That is the perfect example of the adoption issue, right? Is even if the costs are low, which to Sarah's point, they're not. It's at the end of the day, the humans still have to use it and leverage it in a way that it's going to be beneficial in your organization. And the cost will, at scale, get there 100%. And I think that's where we're at this place that Sarah mentioned, where it's this delicate balance between, yes, your investment today is going to be a little bit outsized, but it's kind of required to at least start off those prerequisites, right? Where we were talking about earlier, getting your data right, getting your architecture right, being very intentional about those data sources, like Sarah mentioned, with various clouds, integrating them, what's going to win, what triggers what. So doing that kind of pre-work isn't something that's going to give you ROI right now, but it's going to get you set up so that when you do implement and when you can get everyone on board, have proper change management, get adoption across the board, I'll be pushing in that same direction, then it's really going to pay off. So we are at this very interesting spot where we hear all the time, every conversation I have with prospects, current clients is, and how do we add AI to that, right? We're scoping out a standard recruitment project. We're moving from Target X to Education Cloud. Very easy. We can do it with our eyes closed. But how do we add in a recruitment agent there so that when a prospect lands on our page, they can ask, hey, I have this kind of background. I did a little bit of college before, not sure I'm ready to finish my degree, but like, just what's the next step? Could I do a certificate, a non-credit type quick start, where before that person would just drop off? So you're improving your pipeline from the institution side. But again, all of that programmatic information needs to live in Salesforce, needs to be in the learning architecture. Tons of stuff needs to be in knowledge articles. All your fields need to have descriptions that you know where to look for of what is your BS in biology, what are those outcomes going to be, so it can deliver that information. So there's all of this. It's kind of like the iceberg in the water, right? We've all seen that. Like we see this little bit, but here's all the stuff that actually is going on. We're still underwater in the iceberg a little bit.
I love that. Okay, Peter, it sounds like you have some more Loom videos you got to make. If that's
exactly.
Okay, so here's the thing. We're again running a little short on time, but what I'm going to do is I had a question that I was going to ask you, and I'm going to combine it with a question that came in from the audience because I wanted to take some audience Q&A. So the audience question that I was going to take is, what's a good first step? What should I be doing to get started? What I'm going to do is actually sort of combine this with what I wanted to ask you, because I was going to ask you for sort of, what should we be taking into account? What is sort of the advice if someone's struggling? So I'm gonna give that to you as a big whole wraparound question. What is a good first step And if you have any nuance to that for somebody that's just getting started, or maybe somebody that's feeling a little stuck, I'd love to kind of dig into that. Peter, I think we just had the mic with you, so I'll have you kick us off, and then Sarah, you're going to be our grand finale.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I think don't like FOMO your way into AI. Like really, really define what your objective is. Don't use it for the sake of using it. Where to those conversations that I had earlier, right, is all right, we want to do this big recruitment project so that we can better convey the value our institution brings to prospective students. Awesome. Now I want to add AI. Why? How? To what end? Right? Are we going to use it to specifically deflect inquiries away from humans answering questions that are going to be in support articles that we can just pull up and surface in a chat? Awesome. That's a better defined use. If we want to say we really don't understand how we're doing student success, let's just give it to AI and have it figure it out. You're going to get some really unintended consequences. But if it's let's deliver the templated advising agent so that when a student walks into an advisor's office, the advisor can with a quick prompt, get a natural language formatted bullet point summary of the last 3 months of their experience at the institution and the 2 questions you should probably ask, way better value.
Love it. Sarah, what do you got?
So I personally absolutely echo this sentiment, but I also would add on to that, educate yourself as much as possible. Crack open a book, go listen to podcasts, just understand the fundamentals of the technology that you're working with and understand, again, AI is statistics. Go back to those fundamentals and see what regression analysis is going to work for you. Do you want a normal distribution? Do you want to do K-clustering? Things like that. What works best for you, given the resources that, please go listen to Cloud Divas. We talk about, this is actually the next season that we're talking about. Thank you, Peter.
Of course.
And so the idea is that once you learn about the fundamentals, then you can start taking that and applying different business knowledge that you have in your own industry and extrapolating that. And one thing that I think you can very easily start with, if you go to t.digital/contact us, and you just say in the contact us thing, if you put agent tech stress test, it's a 1-pager that you fill out. It's using a Likert scale, so it's very easy to use. And we actually tell you, hey, this is what is going on with your AI fundamental right now. And if you are ready to move over to AI, or if you have a good strategy that's working right now, and I'll put the link in the comments real quick, but I think that absolutely, Peter, definitely start with an outline for sure.
But guys, I wish, again, I've said this a couple times already today, I wish I could do whole webinars on each one of our panelists and panels here, because there's so much to cover. Sarah, thank you for putting that link in the chat there. And I think that you should also post a link to Cloud Divas, or remind people where they can get that, because folks on demand will not see the chat. So we're Cloud Divas, go get it. Apple Podcasts.
It's on Spotify podcast, but we're expanding.
Spotify, go check it out. Amazing. And also in the chat now for those that are here with us live and present. Okay, Sarah and Peter, I'm going to have to leave things with you there, and we're going to bring Josh out on stage. Josh, you've got the power of the button. Come on out on stage. Come on down, Josh. Josh, any final thoughts for Peter and Sarah?
No, other than thank you both. I appreciate your expertise, and as someone who is trying to wrap their head around where AI can help our organizations, it's nice to hear some experts, with helping some of these larger organizations. That's why we brought you on. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for being here with us today. Thank you, Sarah. All right, Josh. Now, here's the thing, Josh. I'm going to give you a big important question. We're like very close to the end of time, but I'm good to stay a bit late. Do you want to try to do a demo? Should we try to like sneak in 5 minutes? What are you thinking?
Let me, not 5 minutes. I think actually one of the purposes of my demonstration is to show how quickly or how much efficiency Agentic AI can bring to your data collection process. Thank you for launching that poll. Friends in the audience, since I'm not going to be able to demonstrate really my full thing here, what I'd love to say is if you go over to the docs section of our resources here, you're going to be able to either grab a free trial of FormAssembly's Atlas platform, what I'm showing you right now and experience it yourself, or schedule a demo with our team and they'll be able to show it off to you. But what's really cool about our Atlas platform, and the reason we came to talk to you today, is we've injected an agent into the FormAssembly platform. If you know it and love it, you'll see something new here on the right-hand side of your screen. This is Faye, our agent. And in keeping with our conversation today, I'm going to ask it to build me a short lead form for, let's say, the University of Florida. And I'm going to ask it to connect it to Salesforce. And as our panelists spoke about earlier, Faye is a coworker. Faye is using the tools that I have access to. I could use FormAssembly's form builder myself and click through and add form fields, but Faye's going to build me this form for me. It has context, so it knows that it's a higher education lead form, which isn't actually a lead form. Typically, they take the form of a request for information, what program you're interested in. I didn't give it any of those specifics. It's telling me to save my form now, so it's doing exactly what a coworker would do and reminding me of best practices. So I'll tell it that I'm done. And then it's going to navigate over to our form builder, or pardon me, our workflow builder, and throw this form into a workflow and connect it to Salesforce, all while my hands are here and I'm talking to you. FormAssembly is an easy to use form builder. If you've used it, you know that you could do this pretty quickly yourself already, but we've made it even easier with the addition of Faye. Oh, pardon me. I do need to pay attention and authenticate my Salesforce connector. But we've made it this simple to, have an agent do this typically manual work for you and make it this much faster. So again, you'll be able to see Faye build this for you. I'll go ahead and wrap my demo up short. I hope it gives you kind of a taste of what's possible. If you're not familiar with FormAssembly, I'd actually encourage you to schedule a demo before you jumped into a trial so that we could show you a bit more of what we bring to the table. It's more than just quick form building. It's security, it's compliance, it's enterprise grade tools to manage your team. And of course, we give you control over AI. So we didn't talk about this on the panel earlier today, but if your organization is slow to adopt or has controls where you can't use AI tools until after they've been approved, we give you control over that as well. So you can see actually Faye is jumping into my Salesforce connector, grabbing schema from my Salesforce organization, building this connector, all while I'm talking myself. And you can see that it is mapped all of the fields on that form to our Salesforce object record. And if I was requesting information in that form that's not a part of my Salesforce connector, or pardon me, my Salesforce object, I just remove it. So it's a fantastic, for me, I typically would not have been able to do a demo this fast. But because of Faye and the injection of Faye, I'm able to show you how quickly it is accomplishable to easily build forms and workflows. So it's really exciting stuff. I encourage you to schedule a demo or sign up for a trial yourself over in our docs.
Josh, that was amazing. You got a lot of shout outs. I have to say, I love how much Peter and Sarah are fangirling about the panel that they're on. You guys have been such engaged and active members of the conversation all the way through, which is hard to do, to be a speaker and a chatteer. So well done. Josh, one of the things I want to call out, and besides all of the wows, high fives, amazing, love this, can't live without FormAssembly, which is all happening in the chat right now. Really cool to see that. Let's talk about the poll responses that we're getting. We've got, what we were asking is, are you currently using AI to automate your data collection workflows? Now, we're seeing about, 16%, 17% saying yes, and another 80-some% saying no. What do you think about that, Josh?
Well, it's not a surprise. As our panelists said, agents and agentic AI are still in their early phases. The goal of FormAssembly with our Atlas platform is to put this into the hands of our users. Deepika, thank you. I'm glad you're using FormAssembly. Faye is going to come to our classic accounts with workflow in the next month or so keep an eye out for that. The goal is to boost the number that we're seeing here in this poll and saying, hey, bring AI into your data collection workflows, make this faster, make it so that you can collect more data and move faster and collect the data you need. And of course, while maintaining the security and compliance focus that people use FormAssembly to support their organizations.
Peter has suggested behind the scenes here that next webinar we do Peter versus Faye. So I think that maybe is maybe we'll have Josh, Peter, Faye, and then you guys try to build a form, and I'll like I'll make salsa, and we'll see who finishes first. That's going to be that's our next webinar. No, I love this. And I love that you're giving people some options to maybe, if we've talked about maybe what would be stopping people from introducing AI into this particular workflow and process. I think we've hit on a lot of those pain points. You guys have found ways to kind of bring people back from that. What I'm going to do is, so I'm actually going to open one more poll. And this is going to be, we were just talking, Josh, about how people could learn a little bit more and get a little bit more connected. Now, there's some docs in the docs tab that I also want to call out, but there is a poll that's open right now that is just asking, are you interested in learning a little bit more? And what I love about this poll is, think about this as like that easy button, because you don't even have to know what you want. You don't even have to know what you need. You don't have to go look for anything. FormAssembly is going to reach out to you and say, what can we give you? What information would be helpful? Do you want to have a conversation? Do you want us to send you a white paper? What do you want? So what do you want? So no, in a very nice and loving way, what would you like? And so this is the easy button. Hit that yes. Josh, we've got some resources in the docs tab. Do you want to tell us a little bit about any of your favorites in there?
Yeah, I'll just share a quick slide. Again, if you'd like to get your hands on what I just showed you in that demo, you can you can sign up for a trial of FormAssembly Atlas and experience Faye yourself in a free 14-day trial. Go ahead. Current customers, again, Faye's going to be coming to accounts, in the next couple of weeks. Keep an eye out. We will be conducting a release webinar for that. But if you'd like to learn more, I do encourage you, jump over to formassembly.com to our platform How It Works page. That'll give you an idea of beyond easy to build forms and workflows, dive a little bit deeper into the platform and understand what FormAssembly can bring to your organization. And if you are, like Sarah's father, new to the concept of AI and need some help with best practices around prompts, we do have a quick infographic to give you an idea of how you can improve the prompts that you're using in every AI platform. Yes, it'll help you build forms better, but it helps every prompt that you post that you give to an AI to be a little bit more specific. So go ahead and check that out as well.
I love that. There's a link to, this is one of my favorite platform features. I love the little ticker. I don't know why it makes me happy. I just love it. Book a demo. Probably because news stickers are usually bad news. And this is good news. This is good news. I also want to call out, Rohan was asking about getting a recording of this. And as Riley said, we are going to send the on-demand version out. So you will get to watch the fun again and again. I know, Josh, I immediately want to relive this webinar. I've had such a good time. I always have such a good time with FormAssembly. I truly sometimes forget that I'm moderating a webinar and I'm just sitting around having fun with you guys. So I want to thank you for coming to hang out with us today.
We feel that way as well, Jess. Thank you so much. And audience, thank you for sticking around with us. We really appreciate it.
All right, well, I'm going to wrap things up and kind of bring things to a close here and get you all on about your day. I want to echo that thank you to Josh because I know that we kept you all a bit late today. And I know that you guys have things to do, important things to do. So thank you for sticking around with us a little bit longer. Let me sort of wrap things up quickly here. We've talked about the docs tab, so everybody's over there grabbing those docs. You've got the demo that you can click on right here in the live ticker. I want to call it again that if you asked a question we didn't get to, I know we had to move things along very quickly. We are going to make sure that those get to the FormAssembly teams, so you will get responses back. So keep those questions coming in. Andrew, always great to see you. Raphael, thanks for coming. Tammy, so happy to have you with us here. Before we leave, and I saw we already got a shout out in the chat here, we do have that wonderful gift card that I'm going to give away to someone who is here live and present with us at the webinar. That $250 Amazon gift card going to John Crokun of Massachusetts. John Crokun of Massachusetts. John, I'm 100% sure I did not pronounce your name correctly. Apologies for that. Hopefully I was somewhere in the vicinity, but congratulations on your gift card. Hopefully that makes up for it. And we will be in touch with you after we wrap here. All right, well, with that, on behalf of the Smart Brief team, I want to once again thank Salesforce and FormAssembly for making this event possible. A big thank you to Aparna, to Josh, to Peter, to Sarah, and to Eric for such an interesting chat. What a cool conversation we got to have today. I love this kind of multi-panel feel. On that note, honestly and truly, my biggest high fives and thank yous going to everyone here in the audience. I know we kind of started with a fun and wild, chaotic candy day, but I think you guys are, boy, I'm not trying to be corny about this, but you guys really are my sugar rush, my candy rush. I have so much fun talking to all of you every day, and you always bring such energy and engagement and interesting questions, and it really just lights up my day. So thank you all for being the dark chocolate Reese's peanut butter cups of my candy bag, or whatever your favorite was. That one sounds great. I'm going to go with that one. All right. Well, I hope that you're feeling ready to take some of these hot tips and tricks into your organizations, feeling a little bit better prepared to make some of these innovative steps. And I hope that you learned some good things today. I know I did. I look forward to seeing all of you at a webinar again soon. Thanks so much, all.